Hello, I'm Daniela, and welcome to Prompt 4 of Stitch the Season 2022. It's an online slow stitching workshop where we have 10 prompts and we complete them in a fabric book. Now, previous videos will be linked below, but today we're going to jump right ahead and start with Prompt 4. Today's prompt is cloche. Now, a cloche is a glass dome that usually holds something precious. It can be something precious like a beautiful cupcake or a cake or a pastry, or it could be something precious like in Beauty and the Beast where it held a rose. It's just an item, a device that really draws attention to one thing, and it's made with glass. A Christmas version of a cloche would be a snow globe. So I did something a little different. I didn't make a cloche or a snow globe. Instead, I took an old-fashioned lamp, the black street lamps. You know, the little glass, kind of six-sided or four-sided items that emanate light. And instead of having light inside of it, I put in a beautiful scene that I had some fabric. So it kind of projected something that was precious to me, that winter scene, inside a glass case. Now, this is one example of how you can take the prompt and finagle it to meet your needs, to do something that means something to you. So let's get started.
So for the sample book, I created a cloche, the little dome here, with some trees, a little forest scene. And I stitched joy. Today I'm going to do something a little different. I still want to encase my subject inside glass, but instead of a snow globe, which I considered doing, or a cloche, I'm going to do something a little different. Now, I made a very rustic sketch for this idea. This is just a little lamppost, usually the traditional ones you see at Christmas time, and it'll be draped with garland and greenery and ribbons and this type of thing. But I'm going to do one just like this, or we'll see if I'm going to do one just like this with fabric, but inside of it, inside that glass, is going to be my scene. And to make the scene easier on me, I found this fabric that I purchased for Christmas, and it has some scenes. So I think I'm just going to take one of them and use them for my scene inside my glass lamp. So to do that, I have my fabrics and I have my book. The first thing I need to do is decide which page am I going to put my latest prompt on. So I think I'll do it right here. Now I know I want to have a background on this page, so I have this little red dotted fabric, and you'll remember this from the candy, but it doesn't have to be. I just like the way it's starting to coordinate. So I'll put that there, and now I'll piece together my lamp. I'll base it on whichever one of these scenes I want to use inside the lamp post. Actually, I'm going to try and use this gazebo. It's a little bit of a larger image, but I'll see what I can do here. I'm not crazy about the background being black, but perhaps I can make it work. So the size of the gazebo here is what I'm going to need to use for my background. So I'm going to cut it out fairly close to this main image here. It's okay if I shave it down a little bit. And I'm just going to cut the gazebo out, and I'll trim off part of it. I can always add it in if I want to. And I'll trim off the base as well. So there I have my image. I'm just going to set aside my book for now because I want to create everything to fit on this page. I'm going to even trim this down further and get rid of the steps. And now I can use this as the inside of my lamp. So I have some dark fabric here because the lamp posts are traditionally that dark black, either matte or shiny. And then I'll figure out exactly how big I want that to be. So I'm going to overlap with my lamp post because I want the lamp itself to encase this gazebo. So I'm going to just cut it down. It's actually a pretty good fit as it is. And I need this top to go straight across. But I still want it to look like it's a gazebo. So I guess that is the approximate height that I want for the gazebo. So I'll just quickly cut those out. And see how it fits on the page. Trim this down a little further. So that's my lamp, and it's going to go just like that. So that's coming out nicely. What I want to do is create the top of this lamp. So I'm going to take some more of this black fabric. I'll take a longer piece so that I can make it nice and wide. And I want to create that top of that lamp. So it's going to come over here, coming straight across and coming up to a point. So I have my little point down. I'll fold my fabric in half so I can make this lamp symmetrical, and then decide what kind of angle I want for the top of that lamp. So that's pretty good. Now that I see it, I realize that this piece is really way too big. So instead of really focusing on the gazebo aspect, I'm going to focus on that tree aspect. I'll cut this down even narrower. And the important thing for me to have here is that tree. So I'll cover this, the top of the lamp, holding this in place, maybe trimming this down. And this is the part that takes a little time. It's just about figuring out exactly what size you want and how you want this to look. So that's better. Excellent. And I can just trim this down further. So this is already starting to look like the little sides of the lamppost. I'll pull this down so I'm not showing that fabric underneath. Trim this down a little narrower. And the same thing with this piece. And now I want to create a little circle up top for the top of the lamp, and then that stand that holds up the lamp. So that's coming along. It's looking a little bit like a birdhouse, but I'll have to just play around with that. Now there are certain things I want to do to see if I can make it look a little bit more like a lamppost. I don't want to disrupt the tree. But perhaps I can put these little panes to make it look like panes of glass. So that's looking better. I'm going to trim that down and trim this a little as well. I think I want another layer here, just to really make it look like a lamppost. I'll see if that's a good size. There, that's a little bit of an improvement. Looks more like a lamp and less like a birdhouse. So now I'll pin this all down into position and just stitch around. And I'm going to be careful to stitch each of the parts here that I want to really emphasize as part of the lamppost. So I'll take a moment and really just carefully pin everything down in place. So now I'll stitch that down, just stitching around the edge, creating the architecture. And then I'll think about what word I want to stitch on that really captures this image. So I have my black thread. I'm going to stitch it down here, and then after this is attached, then I'll stitch it down to the page of my book. So I stitched all around this little lamppost here, and I'm really liking the way it's coming out. It looks less like a birdhouse now, so I'm pretty pleased. I'm going to take my book, and this is the page that I want to put the lamppost on, and set it here. So I'll open the book just so that I don't have any other pages getting in the way, and I'll just figure out exactly where I want it, and I'll pin it into place. I purposely left this longer because I'm looking for a longer effect, and I'll just tuck this under right at the base so it goes over the fabric. I can actually move this up even slightly just to make that a little bit longer. So now I'm going to stitch all the way around here to tack this fabric down to our base, and I'll stitch some more black stitches as well. So now I've attached my piece down to my page, and as you can see on the back, I stitched over those lines as well as the perimeter here. Now I want to add something else to make it a little more festive, and so I came up with the idea of putting a bow on the lantern. I just think that really makes it look more like a lantern, but I don't really like the way this bow has so much bulk. So I came up with a way to create a similar looking bow without the bulk. I cut 3 pieces of ribbon, 2 approximately the same length and a shorter one, and I'll trim it down further. Now for one, I want the edges to be nice and pointed, so I'll just fold them in half and cut a nice sharp edge there. So this will be the tail of our ribbon, and I can adjust the length accordingly. But for the bow part, I'm just going to fold my length over on itself just to make a little loop here. And once I'm happy with that loop, that size, I'm just going to tack it down with a stitch. So I'll take my little red thread and tack it down. That stitch just holds all those layers together, and it sits rather flat, which is what I like. Then I'm going to take another piece of ribbon here and put it over that stitch, and then I'll just pull it over and cut it so that the back of it doesn't stick out, but it's on the back. So I'll wrap my ribbon and then I have it so it doesnwill stick out. I can take that needle and just add another stitch to hold it in place. This will be just a small little stitch. Now from there, I can adjust it accordingly, exactly where I want it and how I want the tail to look, and then I'll stitch it down to my page. So I like the way that looks. I see that round dome still. I can even lower it further, and I can split those tails to go to either side, and they're still mobile, which I like. So I'll just play around with it, add a pin to hold it in place, and stitch it down. And then the last thing I want to do is add some text. And I think I'm going to write the word festive. And I think I'm going to write it nice tiny letters right here. So let me do that and show you the final result. So there, I stitched festive right here onto the lamp, attached my bow, and I've had this little heart button that I thought was appropriate. It drew the color from the bow. So I'm really pleased with this 4th prompt.
So that's how I created prompt 4, my version of a cloche. I did that old-fashioned street lamp with the Christmas scene. If you create one and you'd like me to take a look at it, you can either email it to me, my address is below. You can post it on Instagram and be sure to tag me and use the hashtag StitchTheSeason2022, or you can join our Facebook group, Stitch the Season 2022. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for joining me today.